My name is Victoria Hayes. I am 32 years old. Last Sunday, my mother-in-law slid a manila envelope across the dinner table, looked at my husband, and said, "I think you need to see this." She had secretly. Dina tested our 4-year-old son. She expected the results to destroy my marriage. What she did not expect was that those same results would destroy her. But here is what none of them knew. Not my husband, not his brother, not even his father. I had found out about the test 3 weeks before that. Dinner. And what I did with those 3 weeks changed everything. Before I take you back to the beginning, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from right now and what time is it? I love reading those. Now, let me take you back 8 years to the day I first met Linda Hayes. I was 24. Ryan and I had been dating for 5 months. He brought me to his parents' house on a Saturday in September, and his mother opened the door like she was receiving a business proposal. She did not hug me. She shook my hand. Firm grip, eyes already scanning. The first 40 minutes were fine. Baked chicken, small talk, Robert telling a story about renovating their kitchen. Normal enough. But then, Linda steered the conversation the way she steered everything. Quietly. With purpose. "So, Victoria, where did you grow up?" I told her. "Newark, small apartment. My mom was a social worker." "And your father?" I set my fork down. "He left when I was 7. Linda nodded slowly. She touched her diamond necklace. This small, practiced gesture I would see 1,000 times over the next 8 years. She adjusted it once between her thumb and forefinger, then smiled. "That must have been difficult." She said it the way people say interesting when they mean noted. Later in the car, Ryan said, "She liked you." I said, "Did she?" He laughed. I did not. What I noticed that night, and what I filed away without understanding it yet, was how much Linda needed to know where things came from. Not just me, everything. She asked Ryan about the wine. Where was it made? Who recommended it? She inspected the label before she poured. She was a woman who tracked origins. I did not know then that this quality would one day be turned against my son. But I remember thinking, she is someone who keeps score. Ryan and I got married the following July. Small ceremony, 50 guests, vineyard venue near the Hudson Valley. My mother flew in from Florida. Linda wore beige, which my maid of honor said was a power move. I did not care. I was marrying a good man. The first year was quiet in the way new marriages often are. We rented a townhouse in White Plains, 45 minutes from Linda and Robert. Close. Enough for holidays. Far enough for breathing room. Except Linda did not believe in breathing room. She showed up. Unannounced. Wednesdays mostly, sometimes Fridays. She would walk in. Through the front door, we had given her a key for emergencies. And rearrange whatever was in reach. The spice rack, the coat closet. Once. She reorganized my pantry and left a note, canned goods by category. Easier to find. I thanked her. Ryan said that was just how she was. Tyler, Ryan's younger brother, visited on weekends. He was 25 then, still living with Linda, still orbiting his mother like a satellite with no trajectory of its own. Every visit ended the same way. Tyler would leave, and by that evening, Linda would call Ryan with commentary about our house, our meals, our plans. I did not say anything. I was new to the family. I was still learning the rules. One night at Christmas, Linda raised her glass. To Ryan, she said. She looked around the table. Robert, Tyler, Aunt Barbara, Uncle Richard. Then her eyes landed on me for exactly 2 seconds. Ryan could have had anyone. Anyone. The table laughed. I smiled. Somewhere in my chest. A small, precise instrument made its first measurement. Noah was born on a Thursday in April, 3 years into our marriage. 8. LB2 Oz. He came out screaming, which the nurse said was a good sign. His hair was dark, almost black. Linda held him in the hospital room and said, "He looks just like Ryan." Did. There was warmth in it. Real warmth. For a moment I thought, maybe. This is the thing that brings us together. That moment lasted about 7 months. At 7 months, Noah's hair began to change, not all at once. Strand by. Strand like autumn arriving. Dark brown, lightened to chestnut. Chestnut, brightened to golden. And by his first birthday, my son had a head full of sandy blonde curls that caught the light like wheat fields. I thought it was beautiful. My father had the same hair before he left. His mother before him. The genetics were not a mystery to me. But Linda did not see genetics. She saw a problem. Interesting, she sat at Noah's first birthday party, holding a curl. Between her fingers, the way someone holds a piece of evidence. Blonde. Hair. She looked at Ryan, looked at me, looked back at Ryan. Where? Does that come from? I explained. Recessive gene, my paternal line. It skips generations. Sometimes. Linda smiled the diamond necklace smile. Interesting, because blonde. Hair does not run in the Hayes family. She said it lightly. The way you mention a crack in a foundation. Not. Alarming, just factual. Just something that should probably be looked at. Nobody at the party responded, but I heard it and I knew with the certainty of someone who reads body language for a living that she had been thinking about this for a while. Over the next year, things shifted. It was not dramatic. Nothing Linda did was ever dramatic at first. She was methodical. She planted seeds, the way someone salts a road before a storm. Thin, deliberate layers that you do not feel until you lose your footing. The comments about Noah's hair became routine. Not every visit, but often enough. He's so unique looking. No one on our side has that. Coloring. Does your family have any Scandinavian? Maybe that explains it. I started keeping count. 17 comments in 8 months. I wrote the dates. In a small notebook I kept in my bedside drawer. Professional habit. In my work as a physical therapist, I documented everything. Behavioral. Patterns, motor milestones, pain triggers. Documentation was how I made sense of the world. Tyler amplified the campaign from his own channel. He posted a photo of Noah on Instagram. Blonde curls, blue romper, standing in Linda's yard. With the caption, "He's so unique looking. Wonder where he gets it." Smiley face emoji. 2,100 likes. I showed Ryan. He shrugged. Tyler's just being Tyler. The extended family began to look at me differently. Robert's sister, Barbara, avoided eye contact at a cookout. Cousin Emma, who had always been warm, stopped texting. And Aunt Claire, Linda's older sister, started watching me the way you watch someone you are waiting to catch. None of this was said out loud. That was the point. Linda was not building a case with words. She was building one with silence. The kind of silence that fills a room with suspicion the way smoke fills a house. Before anyone sees the fire, I felt it. I just could not prove it yet. The water bottle incident happened on a Wednesday in May. Ryan had a client meeting 3 hours south. I had a late shift at the clinic. A 9-year-old with a knee injury needed extra session time, and I could not say no. Linda offered to watch Noah. I dropped Noah off at 10:30 in the morning, packed his bag, snacks, diapers, his favorite stuffed giraffe, and the blue water bottle he had been using since he was 20 months old. When I picked Noah up at 6:30, the bottle was gone. "Oh, that old thing," Linda said. I threw it out. It looked dirty. It was not dirty. I had washed it that morning. I did not push it. I thanked her, loaded Noah into the car seat, drove home, but something else caught my eye that afternoon. When I walked through Linda's kitchen to grab Noah's jacket from the counter, I saw a small Ziploc bag on the table. The kind you use for snack storage or evidence. Linda moved fast. She picked it up and tucked it into a drawer before I could read the label. "Just organizing," she said. And on her desk in the hallway, partially visible behind a stack of mail, I saw a manila envelope, thick, sealed, with a return address I could not quite make out. I did not connect any of it that night. The water bottle, the Ziploc bag, the envelope, they were puzzle pieces without a picture. I went Home, bathed Noah, read him a story, and fell asleep. But my brain, the part of me trained to notice patterns in patients who could not tell me what was wrong, that part of me was already working. At work, I was someone else, not a different person, a fuller version of the same one. In Linda's world, I was quiet, careful, always adjusting. At the clinic, I was calm because I chose to be. There is a difference. My patients that spring included a 6-year-old girl named Maya, who had been born with a hip dysplasia. Her left leg was shorter, her right leg overcompensated. Getting her to walk without a limp was a project, measured in millimeters and months. I sat with her 4 times a week, guiding her steps, adjusting the brace, waiting. Some sessions she cried, some sessions she laughed, most sessions she just stared at the parallel bars like they were a mountain she was not sure she could climb. One Tuesday, she walked 10 feet without assistance, uneven, shaky, barely balanced, but 10 feet. Her father cried in the hallway. I cried in the supply closet after my shift. My supervisor, Dr. Chen, pulled me aside the following week. Victoria, you're the most patient person in crisis I've ever met. I made $78,000 a year. Not rich, not struggling. Enough to cover my student loans, contribute to Noah's education fund, and pay for the occasional dinner Ryan and I still managed to have alone. I mention this because later, when Linda tried to frame me as someone who married Ryan for money or security, it mattered that I had built my own life before he was in it. I paid my way through grad school. I earned my license. I chose this work because holding a patient's hand while they learned to do something they were told they could not do is the closest thing I know to purpose. Linda never asked about my work, not once in 8 years. Memorial Day was the first time Linda said it in front of everyone. We were at her house. Full table. Robert, Tyler, Barbara, Richard, Emma. Noah had just run into the dining room in his striped shirt, blonde, curls bouncing, and Emma said, "Oh my God, he's adorable." Linda set her wine glass down. He really doesn't look like any Hayes I've ever seen. She paused, let the silence do its work. Not one. Tyler, right on cue, mom's right. I looked at old family photos. No. Blondes. I felt the table turn, not dramatically. No one gasped, but the air changed the way air changes before weather. Robert cleared his throat. Barbara studied her salad. I looked at Ryan. He was looking at his plate. He said nothing. The dinner continued. Noah ate his mac and cheese. Linda served dessert. Tyler complimented the pie. The wound was delivered and papered over in the same breath. In the car on the way home, I said, "If your mother says that one more time in front of your family, I will respond." Ryan's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "She won't. I'll talk to her." "When?" "Soon. That's what you said after Christmas." He did not answer. We drove the rest of the way in silence. Noah slept. In the back, his blonde curls pressed against the car seat fabric. He never talked to her. I knew he would not. Ryan avoided conflict the way some people avoid highways, not because he was afraid, but because he had learned early that the fastest route was also the one with the most collisions. But I was done waiting for him to merge. 4 weeks after Memorial Day, my phone rang at work. I was between patients, sitting in the therapy room, cleaning resistance bands from a shoulder exercise kit. The number was local. I almost let it go to voicemail. "Mrs. Hayes, this is Rachel from GenePath Labs. I'm calling to confirm that we have received a sample for analysis under your son's name, Noah Hayes, age 4. I set the band down. I didn't submit a sample. The submission was made under the name Linda Hayes. She listed herself as the child's grandmother. However, our policy requires parental consent for testing on minors. I asked her to repeat that. She did. We have placed the test on hold pending your authorization. Would you like to proceed or cancel?" Cancel. My hands were shaking when I hung up, but my voice had not cracked. It never does when it matters. Something I learned from my mother, who delivered bad news to families about their children's welfare for 30 years and never once raised her voice. I sat in the therapy room for 5 minutes. I stared at the wall chart of muscle groups, deltoid, trapezius, latissimus dorsi. I let the Latin ground me. Then I picked up my phone and called a family attorney. Let me pause here because what I did in the 21 days between that phone call and that Sunday dinner is the reason I am standing where I am today. If this story is hitting close to home, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it is worth staying. I called a lawyer that same afternoon. Her name was Patricia, and she told me something that changed the way I understood everything. Patricia Monroe practiced family law out of a small office in Westchester. She had 16 years of experience and a reputation for being direct. I told her everything: the comments, the water bottle, the phone call from GenePath Labs. She listened without interrupting, which in my line of work is the hallmark of someone who is actually paying attention. When I finished, she leaned back. Under New York law, a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing on a minor child without the express consent of a parent or legal guardian. Full stop. So what she did is illegal? It's a violation of your son's privacy rights and potentially actionable in civil court. It may also violate the testing company's terms of service, which could expose them as well. She paused. Did she forge your consent on the submission form? I don't know. We'll find out. Patricia made a note. In the meantime, don't confront her. Don't tell your husband yet. I looked at her. Why not? Because if you tell Ryan, he'll call his mother. She'll cry, apologize, and ask him to keep it in the family. The pattern will repeat. If you want this to stop, really stop, you need to let her play her hand. I paid the consultation fee, $400. It was the best money I have ever spent. Walking out of Patricia's office, I called GenePath Labs back. I asked them to confirm the sample had been canceled and to flag any future submissions involving Noah Hayes without my written authorization. Then, I drove to pick up Noah from daycare. He ran to me at the door, arms up, blonde curls everywhere. I held him and thought, nobody is taking anything from us. That night, after Noah went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I searched DNA testing consent laws. New York minor child. The results confirmed what Patricia had told me. Parental consent was required. A grandparent had no legal standing to authorize genetic testing on a grandchild. I searched at home DNA test kits. No parental consent. This was where it got more complicated. Clinical labs like GenePath had strict consent protocols. That was why they called me. But consumer platforms, the ones that advertise ancestry and family connections, had consent checkboxes that were easier to click. I am the parent or legal guardian. Submit. Done. Linda had used GenePath for what I assumed was a paternity-style test. But had she also used a consumer platform? I opened Linda's Facebook page. She rarely posted, but Tyler tagged her in things. Family dinners, Noah's photos. I scrolled back. In March, Tyler had shared an article titled, What Your DNA Says About Your Family, the Surprising Connections That At-Home Tests Reveal. Linda had commented, very interesting. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder on my desktop labeled, Documentation, Professional Habit. Then I opened my bedside notebook, the one where I had been logging Linda's comments about Noah's hair. 17 entries in 8 months. I added an 18th, May 19th. GenePath Labs confirmed sample submitted under Linda Hayes's name without parental consent. I closed the notebook. I looked at the bedroom door. Ryan was already asleep. I wanted to wake him. I wanted to show him everything. But Patricia's words kept circling. Let her play her hand. So I turned off the lamp, and I waited. The hardest part was not the waiting. It was carrying the knowledge. Alone. For the next 4 days, I moved through my life as if nothing had changed. I went to work. I treated patients. I came home and cooked dinner and gave Noah his bath and read him the same book about the dinosaur he had requested every night for 3 months. Ryan noticed nothing, and I do not blame him for that. He was managing 4 real estate deals that month. He came home tired. He kissed Noah on the forehead. He kissed me on the mouth. He fell asleep by 10:00. One night, Noah crawled between us. He does that. 3 a.m, bare. Feet padding down the hall, climbing in like a small negotiator at a summit. He curled into Ryan's side, his blonde curls fanned across the pillow. I watched them in the nightlight, my husband and my son. His jaw, his curls, his steady breathing, his small fist gripping Ryan's shirt. I thought about my mother. She had raised 2 children on a social worker's salary after my father walked out. No family money, no backup plan. She did it by documenting everything. Case files, court forms, budgets scratched on the backs of envelopes. She taught me that information is not power. Knowing when to use it is. At work, I helped a 7-year-old boy practice balancing on one leg. He fell 14 times. On the 15th, he held it long enough to count to 5. He looked at me and smiled. Good, I said. Again, some things cannot be rushed. You prepare. You position. You wait for the moment when the balance holds. I was not ready yet, but I was getting close. On day 6, I got lucky. I drove to Linda's house to pick up a pair of Noah's shoes he had left there the previous weekend. Linda was out. Book. Club, Tyler said when he opened the door. Tyler was in the living room, phone propped against a stack of books, FaceTiming someone. I walked past him toward the mudroom where Noah's shoes were. The house was quiet except for Tyler's voice, which carried the way it always did, louder than necessary, as if the world needed to hear his participation in it. Mom has the results. She's doing it at Sunday dinner in front of everyone. I stopped. My hand was on Noah's left shoe. She's been planning it for weeks. She says once Ryan sees the proof, he won't be able to ignore it. The voice on the other end said something I could not hear. Tyler laughed. I know, right? It's going to be insane. I picked up the shoes, walked back through the living room. Tyler saw me, killed the call fast. Oh, hey. Just chatting with a friend. I smiled. No worries. Just grabbing Noah's shoes. Cool. Tell Ryan I said hi. Will do. I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel, set the shoes on the passenger seat, placed both hands on the steering wheel, and pressed until my knuckles turned white. Now I knew 3 things. When? Sunday. Where? The dinner table. Who? Would be watching. Everyone. Linda had built a stage. She had cast the audience. She had rehearsed the lines. And she believed, fully, absolutely believed that the results would say what she wanted them to say. I started the car. I was not going to stop her. I was going to let her light the match. The fire would find its own way back. On day 8, I found Michael. Not intentionally, not at first. I was trying to understand how Linda's Dina submission worked on the consumer platform, the one she had used alongside the clinical lab. I created my own account on the same service, submitted my own sample, and spent an evening reading about how familial matching algorithms function. Here's what I learned. When you submit Dina to one of these platforms, the system does not just test paternity. It scans the entire database for genetic relatives, siblings, cousins, second cousins. Anyone who shares enough markers with your sample gets flagged as a potential relative. Linda had submitted Noah's Dina. That meant Noah's profile was now cross-referenced with every other profile in the system. I logged into the account Linda had created. She had used an email I found through a password reset trick Tyler had once mentioned in passing. The password was Noah's birthday. Of course it was. And there, under potential relatives on Noah's profile, was a name I had never seen. Michael K., age 38. Seattle, Washington. Relationship. Estimate. Half-uncle or equivalent. I stared at the screen. Half-uncle meant one thing. Michael shared a biological parent with either Ryan or with me. Since I was not biologically connected to the platform's test, only Noah was. The match had to be on Ryan's side, which meant either Robert had a secret son or Linda did. I took a screenshot, saved it to the documentation folder, emailed it to Patricia. The next morning, Patricia called. If this match is accurate, it means Someone in the Hayes bloodline has a biological connection to this man that they haven't disclosed. Or that Linda has a biological connection, I said. She submitted the test. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then, we need to find out who Michael K. is. Michael Kevin Barrett, born July 1987, Seattle, Washington, adopted at birth through a private agency in Albany, New York. It took me 3 evenings to find this. The DINA platform had limited public information, but Michael had opted into the open to contact feature. His profile said, adopted, looking for biological family, open to conversation. I did not contact him. That was not my right. But I did the math. Born 1987, Linda was 24. She and Robert married in 1989 when she was 26. Ryan was born in 1990. Linda had a child 2 years before she married Robert. She gave that child up for adoption, and she never told anyone except possibly the one person who had been sitting at every family dinner watching me with careful eyes, Aunt Claire. Because when I looked at Michael's match report more carefully, I noticed something. The platform listed shared matches, other profiles, that both Michael and Noah connected to. One of them was tagged Clara, our possible aunt or half-aunt. Claire's middle name was Rose. Clara Rose. Claire knew. She had known for 38 years. I sat at my kitchen table and thought about Linda, not with anger. Not yet. I thought about a 24-year-old woman, unmarried, probably scared, making a decision that would follow her for the rest of her life. I understood that kind of fear. I had grown up watching my mother make impossible choices. But understanding a choice and forgiving the lie that follows it are not the same thing. Linda had not just given up a child. She had buried the truth so deep that she convinced herself the only threat to her family's bloodline was me. She was afraid of being found out, and she turned that fear into a weapon aimed at my son. Friday, Linda called. Big family dinner this Sunday. I want everyone there. I told Robert to invite Richard. Her voice was bright. Too bright. The kind of brightness that comes from rehearsal. We'll be there, I said. Saturday, I printed the screenshots. I organized my documentation. Folder, dates, events, evidence, lab confirmation, platform login, records, the familial match report for Michael K. I backed everything up to my cloud drive and emailed copies to Patricia. Patricia, if she does it, if she presents the test publicly, that strengthens your position in any civil action. You have witnesses. I know. Are you sure you want to go through with this? You could confront her. Privately. End it before Sunday. I'm sure. Saturday night, I gave Noah his bath. He sat in the tub, splashing his blonde curls slicked wet and dark against his neck. I shampooed his hair, gently, working the lather through the tangles. Mommy, why does Grandma Linda always touch my hair? I paused, my 4-year-old already noticing. Because your hair is beautiful, baby. Is it magic hair? I smiled. The most magic. I dried him, dressed him in pajamas, read him the dinosaur book. He fell, asleep holding my thumb. Ryan came upstairs. Mom seems really excited about Sunday. Wonder, what's up? I looked at him. My husband, kind face, tired eyes, good man who had spent his entire life believing his mother was who she said she was. I guess we'll find out, I said. I lay in bed that night and did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling and ran through every scenario. In every version, the truth came out. The only variable was how much it would cost. Sunday morning, I dressed carefully. Navy sweater. Soft. Not sharp. Gray. Jeans, the small silver necklace Ryan gave me on our 2nd anniversary. No war paint, no armor, just me. Noah wore a green shirt with dinosaurs. He roared twice in the hallway. Mirror before I caught him. Ryan loaded the car, 45 minutes north. Jazz on the radio. Noah fell. Asleep before we hit the highway. I watched Ryan's hands on the steering wheel. Strong hands. Capable. Hands. He worked in commercial real estate. He brokered deals, negotiations, things designed to hold value. And I thought, Today, those hands would either hold mine or let go. We pulled into Linda's driveway at 4:30. 4 cars already there. Robert's SUV, Tyler's sedan, a white Lexus I recognized as Claire's. Full house. Linda met us at the door. She hugged Ryan, long, firm, the kind of hug mothers give when they are about to do something they believe is righteous. She nodded at me, brief, efficient. Put Noah down upstairs, she said. He can nap in the guest room. I carried Noah up, laid him on the bed, pulled a blanket over his legs. His blonde curls fanned across the white pillow. Back downstairs, the family was assembled. Robert in his usual chair by the fireplace. Richard beside him. Tyler on the couch, phone in hand, leg bouncing. Emma, Tyler's cousin, setting out napkins. Claire standing. By the bookshelf, arms crossed, mouth tight, and on the hallway table, right where I had seen it 3 weeks ago, the manila envelope. Thick, sealed, waiting. Linda caught me looking at it. She smiled. The diamond necklace smile. Dinner first, she said. The roast beef was good. I will give Linda that. She had always been an excellent cook, one of the few things about her that was not a performance. Robert told a story about a construction project. Richard laughed. Emma complimented the potatoes. Normal sounds, normal dinner. But I was watching the currents beneath the surface. Tyler checked his phone every 40 seconds. Not texting, just checking the time. He was on a clock. Claire held her fork the way some people hold the railing on a bridge. Tight grip, eyes straight ahead. She ate almost nothing. Linda sat at the head of the table. She smiled at everyone. She asked about Richard's new boat. She refilled Robert's water. She was performing calm the way an actress performs grief. Technically perfect, emotionally hollow. 25 minutes in, the small talk had run its course. Robert was mid-sentence about a fishing trip when Linda stood up. She smoothed her blouse, tucked a strand of dyed brown hair behind her. Ear cleared her throat. Before dessert, she said, "There's something I want to share with the family." The table went quiet. Robert stopped talking. Richard set his fork down. Emma looked at Tyler. Tyler looked at his plate. Claire closed her eyes. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to notice. Linda walked to the hallway, returned with the manila envelope. She held it the way a prosecutor holds an exhibit, at chest level, label facing. Out. What happened in the next 4 minutes changed everything, not just for me, for every person at that table. If you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. Stay with me. Linda set the envelope on the table, slid it toward Ryan. Open it. Ryan looked at the envelope, then at his mother. What is this? Linda placed her hands flat on the table. She had rehearsed this. I could tell, because her breathing was measured. The same cadence she probably used when delivering quarterly reports at the accounting firm, where she had spent 32 years as a senior manager. This is a DINA test, she said. For Noah. The room contracted. I could feel it. The walls pulling inward, the air thinning. Robert, Linda, what the hell did you do? Linda did not look at him. She looked at me. No offense, dear. But this family deserves the truth. Mom. Ryan's voice was low. What truth? I had Noah tested privately because I love this family. Because that child, she pointed toward the ceiling, toward the room where our son slept, does not look like a haze. Tyler leaned forward. Claire stared at her plate. Linda's voice rose half a register. She was reaching the part she had practiced most. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Blonde hair does not run in the Hayes family. And I think Ryan has a right to know whether that child is really his. The sentence landed on the table like a brick through glass. Richard looked at his hands. Emma's mouth opened, then closed. Robert gripped the armrest of his chair. Ryan stared at the envelope. His hands were steady, but his jaw was working the way it does when he is deciding between silence and something irreversible. Open it, Linda said again. She was smiling. She believed, truly, deeply believed, that the contents of that envelope would prove her right. She was wrong. Ryan picked up the envelope, broke the seal, pulled out a stack of pages, 6 or 7 sheets printed on lab letterhead. He read the first page in silence. 20 seconds passed, maybe 25. Long. Enough for Linda to shift her weight from one foot to the other. Long. Enough for Tyler to stop breathing. Ryan looked up. He looked at Linda. He's mine. Linda blinked. What? Probability of paternity, 99.9997%. He held up the page. Noah is my son. The smile on Linda's face did not fall. It fractured like ice on a windshield. Still in place, but no longer holding. That can't be right. Let me see. She reached for the papers. Ryan pulled them back. No. You've done. Enough, Tyler. Maybe the lab made an error. Ryan turned to him. Shut up, Tyler. Tyler recoiled like he had been slapped. In 36 years, Ryan had never spoken to him like that. The room understood. Something had shifted in. Him. A door that had been propped open his entire life had just closed. Linda's hand went to her diamond necklace, adjusting it. The gesture I had seen at our first dinner together, at Christmas, at Memorial Day, at every moment when Linda's certainty met resistance and she needed something to hold on to. There must be a mistake, she said. Her voice was smaller now. The hair, the coloring, it doesn't make sense. Ryan set the papers down. He looked at me for the first time since Linda had stood up. I had been sitting at the far end of the table, still quiet, hands folded in my lap, watching. And now it was my turn to speak. The results are correct, Linda. My voice was level, the same voice I use when a patient's parent asks me if their child will ever walk normally, calm, clear, and carrying more weight than volume. I know because I called the lab 3 weeks ago when they contacted me to verify parental consent. Consent that you never obtained. The room shifted. Not a sound, a vibration. The kind you feel in the floor before a train arrives. Robert leaned forward. You tested our grandson without their permission? Linda's chin lifted. I was protecting this family. Under New York state law, I said, a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing of a minor without written parental consent. Your attorney can explain the specifics if you'd like. Mine already has. I said this the way I document a patient's progress notes. Factual, chronological, without adjectives. Linda's face cycled through 3 colors in as many seconds, pink to red, to white. Her hand dropped from her necklace. But the lab should. The lab followed protocol. You didn't. Silence. Tyler pressed his lips together. Richard looked at Robert. Robert looked at Linda with an expression I had never seen him wear. Not anger, not disappointment. Something worse. The look of someone realizing they do not know the person sitting across from them. I let the silence hold. 1 second. 2. 3. Then I said, but that's not the most interesting thing in those results. Every head turned. Ryan looked at me. What do you mean? Keep reading, I said. Page 5. He flipped past the paternity confirmation, past the methodology page, past the consent disclosure, and he reached the familial match report. Ryan read aloud slowly, the way you read something you do not yet understand. Potential familial match. Michael K. Age 38, Seattle, Washington. Relationship estimate, half-uncle to Noah Hayes. He stopped, looked at the page again, looked at me, looked at Linda. Half-uncle. He said it like he was translating from another language. That would mean he's either my half-brother or Victoria's half-brother. He's not mine, I said. Ryan turned to Linda. Mom, who is Michael? Linda's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Her diamond necklace, the one she had been touching all night, hung motionless. Even the nervous gesture had abandoned her. I don't know what that. Aunt Claire's fork hit the plate. She stood up. Linda, don't. 2 words and the room understood everything. Richard, Claire, sit down. Robert stood slowly. His chair scraped across the hardwood. A sound that cut through the silence like a blade dragged across stone. Linda, answer the question. Linda's eyes filled. She looked at Claire. Claire shook her head. A small, desperate no. It was before you, Linda said. Her voice cracked. Not the practiced. Crack of a woman performing vulnerability. A real crack. The kind that comes from a wall bearing weight for 38 years finally giving way. Before your father, I was 24. I wasn't ready. You had a child? Ryan's voice was flat. I was young. I was so scared. You had a child, and you never told me. He stood now, too. You never told Dad. Robert's hand found the back of his chair. He held it the way you hold something when the ground is no longer steady. 38 years. Robert's voice was quiet. Real estate broker's hands flat on the table. We've been married 36. Robert, please. It was before us. I was so ashamed. You told Claire. He looked at Claire, who was still standing, one hand on the bookshelf. But not me. Claire, Robert. She was scared. Were you scared for 38 years, Linda? The question landed and stayed. Nobody moved. Linda cried. Real tears this time. Not the performative kind she deployed when Ryan forgot to call on Sundays or when Tyler canceled plans. These were the tears of a woman watching a foundation she had, built with silence, crumble under the weight of her own scheme. For one moment, one small strange moment, I saw her. Not the Linda who had spent 8 years questioning my son's but the 24-year-old girl who sat in a hospital in Albany and signed papers and walked away from a baby she was not allowed to keep. I understood that girl. My heart ached for her. Then Linda wiped her eyes, straightened her back, and said, "This is Victoria's fault. She brought this up to humiliate me." The moment of sympathy evaporated like steam off a window. Gone. Ryan stepped forward. Mom, Victoria didn't bring up anything. You ordered the DNA test. You planned this dinner. You slid that envelope across the table. He picked up the pages, held them toward her. I think you need to see this. He said it slowly, the same words she had used 25 minutes earlier. Isn't that what you said? Well, we saw it. Linda sat down, not in her chair. She missed it slightly and caught the edge. Claire reached for her. Linda pushed her hand away. Tyler was crying. Mascara tracked down both cheeks. He looked less like a 31-year-old account manager and more like a child who had just discovered the rules of his world were not what he thought. I didn't know about Michael, he said. Mom, you told me Noah wasn't Ryan's. You said you had proof. Tyler, he is, the blonde hair. Ryan cut in. Mom, I'm the one with the recessive gene. He pulled out his phone, swiped through his photos, found what he was looking for, and held it up for the table to see. A photograph, old, taken in the early 1980s, judging by the clothes. A young woman standing in a yard, squinting into the sun. She had blonde hair. I found this in the storage unit last year, Mark said. In a box of old photos you told me were Claire's. It's you, Mom. Age 22 or 23. Richard leaned in. Linda, is that you? Your hair was blonde? Linda's hand, the one that always found her diamond necklace, hung at her side. She reached up slowly, unclasped the necklace, set it on the table. The small silver chain clicked against the wood. I started dyeing it at 22, she said. I always hated it. The blonde hair that did not run in the Hayes family had run through Linda's veins since birth. She had buried it under 40 years of salon, appointments, and careful maintenance. And then, when her grandson was born with the same trait, she did not see inheritance. She saw exposure. Tyler looked at me. I'm so sorry, Victoria. I know you didn't, Tyler. There was nothing else to say at that table. Robert picked up his jacket from the back of his chair. He put it on. Slowly, the way he did everything. Deliberate, measured. I'm going for a drive, he said. He did not look at Linda. Ryan, we're leaving too. He turned to me. Get Noah. I went upstairs. Noah was still sleeping. Blonde curls spread across the white pillow like small golden rivers. I lifted him gently. He stirred, pressed his face into my neck, and settled. I carried him downstairs. The dining room was emptying. Richard had his coat. Emma was at the front door, keys in hand. Claire stood by the bookshelf, frozen, arms wrapped around herself. At the front door, Linda stepped in front of Ryan. Her eyes were swollen. Her hair, that carefully dyed brown, looked suddenly wrong. Like a costume. "Ryan, please don't leave like this. We can talk." Ryan stopped, looked at her. "You didn't want to talk, Mom. You wanted to perform." Claire tried. "Everyone just needs to calm down." Robert, already at his SUV, called back without turning. "Claire, if you say one more word, I'm calling my lawyer in the morning." The sentence landed on the porch like a gavel. Claire went silent. Richard passed her without a word. Emma followed, eyes on the ground. I carried Noah to the car. Ryan opened the door. I buckled him into the car seat. He murmured something about his stuffed giraffe. I handed it to him. He grabbed it with both hands and went back to sleep. The house behind us, Linda's house, the house she had ruled for 32 years, emptied one person at a time. The dinner she planned to expose me had emptied her own home. We drove in silence for 12 minutes. Noah slept in the back. The highway was empty. Sunday evening, most people were already home. Streetlights passed overhead in slow rhythm, casting amber bands across the dashboard. Ryan spoke first. "How long did you know about the test?" 3 weeks. "About Michael?" 10 days. "Why didn't you tell me?" I had practiced this answer, not in words, in logic. I knew the shape of it before I knew the sentences, because I needed you to see it for yourself. If I had told you privately, you would have called her. She would have cried and apologized and asked you to keep it in the family, and nothing would have changed. He gripped the steering wheel, released, gripped again. "You're saying I would have let her off the hook. I'm saying the pattern was 36 years old. I couldn't break it with a conversation. You needed to see her perform." He was quiet for a mile. Then she dyed her hair for 40 years. Blonde. Hair was hers all along. I know. Another mile. I have a brother. Half-brother. In Seattle. Michael. He said the name like he was tasting it, testing its weight. I watched him, his profile against the passing lights. The jaw that Noah had inherited, the shoulders that carried more than real estate deals. He was processing, not shutting down, not deflecting. Processing. He reached across the center console, found my hand, held it. He did not let go until we pulled into our driveway. He turned off the engine, sat for a moment, looked at me. "Thank you," he said, "for not protecting me from this." I squeezed his hand. That's not what partners do. Monday, Ryan called Linda. "I need time. Don't contact Victoria or Noah." "Ryan, for how long?" "Mom, until I'm ready." He hung up, poured coffee, went to work. That was Ryan. Process by doing. Tuesday, Robert called. He was staying at Richard's house. "Told your mother I need space to think," he said. His voice was even. No tremor, no crack. Real estate broker's steadiness. 36 years of marriage. Bats. A lot of foundation to re-examine. Wednesday, Tyler texted me 4 words. "I'm so sorry." Then a longer message. I should have questioned Mom instead of believing her. I was wrong, and I know an apology doesn't fix it. But I needed to say it. I replied, "Thank you for saying that." Thursday, Patricia sent Linda a formal letter. Cease and desist. Regarding any unauthorized genetic testing of Noah Hayes. Notice of potential civil action under New York privacy statutes. Linda called Ryan. Panicked. Ryan told her to read the letter carefully and call a lawyer. Friday evening, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open. He had been quiet all week, not withdrawn, just focused like he was building something in his head. "I found him," he said. "Michael. He's a software engineer. He coaches youth soccer. He has a son, 5 years old." He turned the screen toward me. A photo on a company website. Michael Barrett, dark hair, same jaw as Ryan, same slight crook in the nose. He posted on the Dina platform 4 years ago, looking for his birth mother. On the desk behind us, the manila envelope sat where I had placed it when we got home Sunday night. Unsealed. The document that was meant to destroy us had become the document that rebuilt the truth. Ryan emailed Michael on Saturday morning. He wrote and deleted it 5 times. I watched from the kitchen doorway with my coffee, saying nothing. He needed to find the words himself. The final version was short. My name is Ryan Hayes. I believe I'm your half-brother. My mother was. Born in Albany, New York in 1963. If you're open to talking, I'd like that. Michael responded in 3 hours. I've been looking for her for 8 years. I never expected to hear from a brother. They scheduled a video call for that evening. Ryan set up his laptop at the kitchen table. I took Noah to the living room to watch his dinosaur show. At 7:30, I heard Ryan say, "Hi, I'm Ryan." And then, a voice I did not recognize, deeper than Ryan's, steadier. "Hi, Ryan. I'm Michael." I stayed in the living room, but I could hear them. And after 25 minutes, I heard Ryan cry. Not the quiet kind, the kind that comes from deep in the chest, from a place most men spend their lives pretending does not exist. I stood in the kitchen doorway. On the screen, Michael was crying too. Same jaw, same eyes, 38 years apart, and they look like 2 versions of the same blueprint. Michael. Does she know? My birth mother. Ryan wiped his face. She knows. It didn't go well. I don't want to cause problems. I just wanted to know where I came from. Michael, you're not causing problems. You're not the one who lied. Noah tugged my hand. Mommy, why is Daddy sad? I picked him up. He's not sad, baby. He's meeting someone new. 3 weeks later, Linda came to our door, unannounced. The old pattern. Same front entrance, same assumption that her presence was always welcome. Except now, the front door had a different lock. I had changed. She knocked. I opened the door. She stood on the step in a beige cardigan, eyes rimmed red, looking 12 years older than the woman who had slid an envelope across a table with the confidence of someone who believed she was saving her family. I need to explain, she said. I was young. My parents made me give him up. I carried this guilt for decades. Ryan appeared behind me. Then you should have dealt with it honestly. Instead, you projected it onto my wife and my son. I was trying to protect. You weren't protecting anyone, Mom. You were protecting your secret. Linda looked at me. Victoria, please. I'm asking for a chance. I considered her for a long moment. This woman who had spent 8 years measuring me, cataloging my flaws, salting the ground between me and her family. This woman who had stolen my son's Dina. This woman who had planned a public execution at her own dinner table and called it love. Linda, you're welcome to have a relationship with Noah. He loves you. We wouldn't take that from him. Hope flickered in her eyes. But it will be on our terms, on our schedule, and you will never be alone with him again. The hope dimmed, but it did not die. She nodded. Those are the terms, I said. She did not argue. For the first time in 8 years, maybe for the first time in her life, Linda Hayes did not argue. She stepped off the porch, walked to her car, and drove away. Robert called Ryan on a Thursday, 4 weeks after the dinner. Been at Richard's since that night, he said. First time in my life I've slept under another man's roof. You okay, Dad? I've been seeing a counselor. Don't laugh. I'm not laughing. My guy, Dr. Stone, he says I need to figure out what I can live with and what I can't. Robert paused. The line was quiet except for the sound of wind. He was probably outside, standing in Richard's yard. I can live with a mistake she made at 24. People make mistakes. Lord knows I have. But I can't live with 38 years of silence. That's not a mistake. That's a decision made every single day. Ryan did not respond. Sometimes silence is the kindest thing a son can offer. The following Saturday, Robert drove to our house. He brought a toy. helicopter he had built in Richard's garage, hand-painted with wooden blades that actually spun. "For my grandson," he said at the door. Noah saw him from the hallway. He ran. "Grandpa Robert." He scooped him up, and Noah pressed his face into his collar, his blonde curls against his polo shirt. He held him for a long time. Then he looked at Ryan. "He looks like your mother did at this age, you." "No. Before your mother started dyeing it." Ryan nodded. "I know." Robert set Noah down. Noah flew the helicopter across the porch, making engine sounds. Robert watched him with the expression of a man who had just re-examined his entire understanding of the past, tracing every connection back to its source, finding breaks and dead ends, and deciding which relationships were still worth keeping. 7 months later, Ryan flew to Seattle and met Michael in person. They sat in a coffee shop for 5 hours. Two men with the same jaw, the same slightly crooked nose, 38 years of distance between them. Michael brought his wife Sarah and their son Jacob. Ryan brought photos of Noah. In September, Michael and his family visited New York. Jacob and Noah played in our backyard while Ryan and Michael sat on the porch drinking iced coffee and watching their sons chase each other through the sprinkler. I stood in the kitchen window and watched them, two brothers finding each other in the middle of their lives. Linda and Robert went to couples therapy. Robert moved back home after 3 months, but he set conditions. Honesty, full disclosure, no more locked drawers, no more buried histories. Linda agreed. She stopped dyeing her hair. It came in silver gray now, with traces of blonde at the temples. The ghost of the girl she had tried to erase. Tyler apologized formally, in writing. He mailed a letter, handwritten, 4 pages, to both me and Ryan. It was the most honest thing he had ever produced. The relationship was rebuilding slowly, the way you rebuild anything worth keeping, one honest conversation at a time. Aunt Claire was not invited to Thanksgiving. Nobody discussed it. The absence spoke clearly enough. At work, I helped a 6-year-old boy take his first steps in new leg braces. He grabbed my hands, pushed off, and stood for 4 seconds. Before sitting back down, his mother sobbed. I wrote in my notes, patient stood unsupported for 4 seconds. Progress within expected. Range. Some things take time, but they come. The manila envelope sits in a drawer in my desk. I never threw it away. Not because I need it, but because it reminds me that sometimes the weapon someone builds to destroy you is the same weapon that sets you free. Here is what I know now. The people who try hardest to expose your secrets are usually the ones with the biggest secrets of their own. And the truth, the real truth, does not need a stage or an audience or a manila envelope slid across a dinner table. It just needs time. That's my story. A dna test, a dinner table, and a secret that was 38 years old. If this reminded you to trust yourself when everyone else doubts you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.